And we're live. Welcome to Timeless Mysteries Live Edition. We've got April Scarborough with us today. Did I say your name right?
Yes, actually, you did.
Okay, good. I have a hard time usually, so. So I guess we can wait a few minutes, see if people show up. I know there's supposed to be a few people here. They promised to be here, so. Here I could share this this little video that I was showing you.
Dawned,
hey, Crafted,
rags like a disguise, while
so this is one of the stories in
12 in the narrow alley.
Wow. Okay, we'll save that for a minute. Hey, Olga. Hey, Jen. Yeah, so this is the a short that I'm working on. It actually ends up being like 5 minutes long, so it's going to be 2 shorts. Hey, Molly, I'm glad you're able to make it. But this woman is so terrifying that I had to stop like recording it for a while. Once I wrote it, it was just like bugging me, and then I started like having to say the words, and it was just very awful. This woman didn't just kill people, she didn't eat people, she used kids to basically treat old age, I guess. That's what she sold it as. She made salves and lotions out of kids' fat. Crafted asked, what is the topic tonight? So today we're going to be talking about April Scarborough's book that she's got out. She's got another one coming out. And I'm going to let her do most of the talking tonight because she's got a very interesting story. I don't know how much she'll be able to get into it because it's, very traumatic. So I just ask you guys be a little bit respectful. If, she has to stop, that's fine. But she's got a bunch of stuff that we could talk about, in present day also that I think is pretty interesting. I've only been able to read a little bit of that book. And I thought it was pretty good, pretty well written. It's kind of similar to the shorts that I've been making, and definitely a lot like the trivia I do. I have trivia on my channel. That's what basically spawned these shorts. Was I was doing all this research, but I didn't do anything with it except for write 2 or 3 sentences, So I started making them into shorts. But I guess, April, if you want to go ahead and get started, I can play this thing later. It's not even done yet, so.
All right. Well, hi, everyone. My name is April Scarborough. I am a writer. I write true crime. I like to do my style a little different from what most true crime writers write about. I actually never read a true crime book. Before I started writing, I didn't want to take their way of writing. I wanted it to be my own style. I've written other books before, and I love true crime. I have a background in criminal justice and psychology, and actually a little bit of theology. So I have a little bit of everything going on there. But it was just something that I've been really wanting to do, and just kind of had all these other things going on. So now was my chance to actually push myself to do it. And I'm really excited because now it's starting to take off, and I'm writing my second book. But yeah, I guess let's start with how I became a writer first. And you were saying how my background got started. And so, well, let's see if I can get through this. It's been a minute since I told my story because I used to do my story for the news, and I had a nonprofit, but it's been almost 2 years since I kind of shared my story. So bear with me for a minute. If I cry, I'm really, really sorry.
Like I said, just to be clear, if you can't talk about it, that's fine. People can Google you.
Yeah, they can actually. They can probably find a little bit. But there's also an April Scarborough who's a model. So
Hmm.
I guess though, let's start with my family background and that kind of stuff. So I have a very famous ancestor. His name was Will Mathis, and he was actually hanged in Mississippi. He was the first, quote, white man, he was like half Cherokee, half white man, to be hanged beside a black man for a crime that they committed together. The story is really wild and crazy. There's actually a book called what's it called? Side by Side, Mississippi and Moonshine. So he was a leader of a gang called the Wildcats in Mississippi. He was a moonshiner and counterfeiter. And he had been in trouble with the law. The law was coming for him. And they ended up killing 2 U.S. Marshals and then chopping up their bodies and burning the house down. And he got caught. And so historical events, like I said, 10,000 people came to watch him hang. In my family, I just recently found this out because my dad would be like, we're cursed, but wouldn't tell me why. He didn't know why. My grandfather, his grandfather actually was actually named after Will. And so it's just been kind of like there, but lingering, right? My dad, and we'll get a little bit more into like him in a minute. But on top of Will, on my other side of the family, I had my grandpa who was murdered. And he was murdered back in the 70s on Mother's Day. And the crazy thing about that story is that my mother and my grandmother, like all the kids, they didn't know what happened. He was a traveling mechanic. He couldn't read, he couldn't write, but he was like a really good mechanic. And so when he passed away, he was in LA. They thought he was a transient. They thought he was homeless. So, and the laws, and this is something that still happens today that most people don't know about, mass graves. So it's supposed to be 2 years. Each state is different. In LA, it's supposed to be, his body was supposed to be held for 2 years. Within 3 months, they had thrown him in a mass grave without us ever being able to find him. So we have that. I have a lot of suicides and drug addictions, alcoholism that runs in the family. I'm actually the first to go to college in my family. I graduate. My sister was the first to go. I was the first to graduate. We both graduated with psychology degrees. So we are trying to break that generational stuff for both our children's and our families. But yeah, like I was saying about how my father he was just like Will. He actually did 5 years for shooting at a state trooper. The state trooper survived, but he was actually going to Tennessee because he believed he had a demon in him, and he had to get this demon out. He has been in so many standoffs. I thought that was how he was going to die, but he ended up. I found out he actually died this year, recently. And so I've been kind of like dealing with that and dealing with the death anxiety from that. It got to the point I couldn't even leave my house because right when he died was when I was finding all about Will and finding out about my history because I had to take a DNA test because he was always like the type that would be, oh, you're not my kid. And then 1 minute you are, right? So I know that he was trying to push me away because he had that stuff in him. And he didn't want me to be around that. But yeah, he's in and out of prison my whole life, right? Thankfully, though, I did have a really good stepdad who raised me since I was like 4. He always called my dad. He was very wonderful. He actually later on in life helped me get clean from when I was on drugs, when I was a teenager. Yeah, that is my family background, trauma that carried down. My personal trauma started when I was 4. I was sexually abused as a child. And I don't want to really get into that. That's one thing that I really kind of don't want to talk about. So,
Completely.
but I think it did open up the floodgates for more trauma. And that's what I kind of wanted to mention is that it between my family trauma and trauma as a child, it just like led on to more and more traumas. And most people don't realize that a survivor normally has like a lot of trauma. It's not just one trauma, it's multiple traumas. And so some people that hear my stories like, oh my gosh, she went through so much. And it kind of is, but it's kind of not for a survivor. But when I was 14 is when I tried to end my own life for the first time. I was on depression meds, so I took a bunch of Prozac. That was shortly after my grandfather died of a freak gun accident. He was a hunter and a world's famous taxidermist. And I had found him after 10 years. He was my father's father. So when my mother left, he gave her money and said, don't look back, don't contact me. And I had found him and talked to him on the phone. I remember he said, I'm proud of you and I love you, but I'm so scared your dad's going to find out and kill me. That was the one and only conversation I had with him. And then he died 2 weeks later. And I blamed myself for many, many years. I was told that my dad did kill him. And so I lived with that for a very long time. And that's why I think I turned to drugs when I was 18, right after high school. And that part of my life is really a blur. I really don't even remember a lot of it. I remember not eating. I remember just the time fading into each other. And I remember my stepdad and my mom out searching for me and trying to bring me back. And eventually they did. And he just kind of never said anything. But I knew that he knew because he had been through a lot. He had been shot a couple of times and survived a whole lot in his life. And he was like very kind of strict and hard on us, but for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember he used to take me on motorcycle rides and stuff like that. And that was our therapy together. And that's kind of how he got me clean, was we'd just go on long rides together. But I was still very hard-headed and wanted to be on my own, right? And wanted to prove him that I could do it. And so I left home at 19.
Okay, before we get into that, let's just take a little bit of a break here, because I think the next part is a little bit.
Yeah, because you know what's coming.
I know what's coming.
Yeah.
Everyone else probably doesn't know what's coming, but I think now would be a good time to kind of talk about your book. But I do have a video that is finished on the Shirley. What's her last name? It was one of your stories, or your book that you liked. What's her last name again? Shirley.
Scarborough.
No, Shirley.
Oh, Shirley Winters. You're talking about
Winters.
Okay.
Yeah, that lady is also pretty scary. This whole
book.
There's
a lot of them. There's a lot of them. When I was writing, I would literally have to take breaks for a couple of days, because some of them would be so intense. Some of them would definitely be intense. There's actually one that I didn't send you that you should look up and talk about, because she's actually had me laughing, which is rare, in true crime. But her name is, they call her Bricktop. Have you heard of her?
Mm-mm.
So Mary Jane Jackson. Look her up, because I'll just give you a few things of her. So she was the first female, like, all gang leader in the U.S. Okay, so you can imagine in New Orleans in like the 1800s how that was. The stuff that she did, like, her boyfriend was a jailer. Okay, he had a mace, a ball and chain on his arm.
Wow.
And the funny thing, like, at one point, she actually took him and dragged him around the room by his ball and chain and beat him with it. So she was quite a character, and she just disappeared. No one knows what happened to her.
What do you think happened to her?
I had a theory. So she went to prison, and then she got out after a few years, and then she disappeared. She was a prostitute since the age of 12. At that time, if you look at that time frame, I think that she had, and like I said, some words I say wrong. What is that? It's that disease. See, I'm tongue-tying. The one that starts with an S, the STD, where it makes you go crazy.
Syphilis. Syphilis.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
I think that she had that, and that's what happened to her.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories where people disappeared, and I'm always wondering if what happened to them is something that, the stuff they were doing to people, maybe it was karma and somebody did it to them. But let's see, I'll share. Actually, I was thinking about this. Your first story, the first story in your book, what was it called? The Serial Killers in Hills, or where I should know it. What's the name of your book?
Killers in Hills.
Killers in Hills. Yeah, I knew it was something that sounded cool. Let's see. But the first story you have in there is on Belle Gunnis. And
Yes, I started with a famous.
Let me see if I can find that one, because it's short, and I mean, it's a good story. I thought you told it fairly well. You had a lot of details. When I do a short video, I have limited amount of data, or not data, a little limited amount of things I could say before I run out of time. Was it?
Yeah, I think it's 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, and you'd be surprised how fast that happens. I know I've got one. I'm not seeing it anywhere. Let me. Is there a search? Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, this one is only so I think you guys will be able to see this.
Belle Gunnis owned a farmhouse in LaPorte, Indiana, and invited suitors through newspaper ad promising prosperity and wedded bliss. Many men arrived with their life-saving and promptly disappeared. Suspicion ignited in 1908 after Belle's home burned down. Within the smoldering ruin, authorities uncovered countless human remains buried beneath the property, including those of children. A headless female corpse was presumed to be Belle herself, but the body seemed smaller than her formidable stature. Investigators eventually realized that Belle had likely faked her own death and fled. A parade of missing person reports tied to Belle's love lure scheme surfaced, revealing how she'd coaxed men to sell assets, then quietly murder them for a profit. Despite manhunts, Lady Bluebeard vanished without a trace, leaving behind the open graves of many and even more unanswered questions. Whether she died in that fire or she escaped, Belle Gunnis stands as America's most chilling female serial killer, a manipulative predator who's...
So I'll just stop it there. But that's a really good intro, I think, for the Belle Gunnis story. And what I read in your book, I know there's a lot more information, but I think the basics of the story are very scary also.
I think they found 41 bodies buried on her property of men and children.
Yeah, the part of that story that got me the most was the catfishing. Before there was the internet, before there was dating apps, they had newspapers. And in the newspapers, apparently you could write in there, hey, looking for a husband, come to my house. They would sign over a insurance policy, and then they would disappear.
I think there's a couple of women that were like that.
Yeah, well, I know Shirley Winters was like that, right?
Shirley Winters, she's kind of rare. So with Shirley, she killed children.
Oh, wait,
She must be
maybe I'm
killed.
getting her mixed up with somebody else. I'm
I
thinking
think you're thinking of
she tried to marry or murder her own or no,
her
she tried to,
niece,
yeah, 3
Geraldine
times.
Parrish.
Okay, yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
something on Shirley, but
Mhm.
I don't think I remember it that well. So, do you guys have any questions yet? You guys in the chat? I see you guys aren't saying much today. So just make sure you hit that like button. Let me know that you're there. If you guys got any questions, anything you want to bring up, anything you're interested in, feel free to leave a comment. And let's see. I guess I'll just share some of this just because today I went for a long drive and you guys can kind of see what Alaska looks like. This is like 20 miles from my house, guys. And it just goes on like this for like 100 miles or so. And you end up in Seward where I think you pass like 12 glaciers. All right. So enough of that. I will let you continue. You can talk about your book, or if you want to move forward with your story first, that's fine too.
Let's see. I guess let's finish my story so we can get to the book, so that I can just get this out of the way, so that I can just feel the emotions and then, you know. So where was I? I left home at 19, and I was renting a room from this little Spanish lady, this sweet little Spanish lady. And this man came to the house, and he's like, "Oh, you need a job? I got a job. It's at a restaurant. I'm the manager there. Come meet the owner. You just be serving, beer, and it's at a pool hall." Okay, great. Not what it was at all. I mean, it was a restaurant. It was a bar. It was actually across the street from a large church and the police station in Atlanta, Georgia. But what people didn't know about it was that when you walked inside, they had a young girl, I remember, on the wall, and she's probably about 16 or 17, and she was like about 7 or 8 months pregnant. And he really wouldn't let us talk to each other. I thought that was a little weird at first, but he's like, "Oh, no, she doesn't speak English," kept making excuses why I couldn't talk to her. The next day, I went back and the place was full. When I first went there was no one there. Go back the next day, the place is full. And he's like, "Hey, part of your job is you're just supposed to like talk with the patrons, and some of them might want to buy you a beer." I'm like, "Oh, I'm 19. I'm not allowed to drink, but I never drunk before." So I'm like, "Okay, this kind of might be cool, So he went and grabbed me a beer, brought it back, and took like 2 sips. And I immediately knew that something was wrong and I wasn't supposed to feel like that. So I remember standing up and I tried to go out the door, and there was like at least 14 to 20 men just started blocking all the doors and literally clawing at me. And I remember going in and out of it. I remember he took me to what was supposed to be the manager's room in a little restaurant, but the only thing in there was this green army cot that was lined up near the door. And he kept telling me, "It's okay, just lay down, just take a nap, it's okay, you're okay." And last thing I remember before I went out was 2 men had came in the room and they asked how much, and they handed them some money. And I woke up the next day and there were still men there. And that same man tried to give me a lot of money. And I knew what happened. I just don't know how many. And so I remember walking home. I didn't take the money. I just walked out. that same manager came back the next day because he knew where I lived. That's how we met. And he goes, I told him what happened. And we're sitting in his car, and he goes, oh, I know. I own you now. This is what you're going to do. And he pulled out a gun, set it right there on the console, pulled out a bunch of people's IDs and birth certificates. And he's like, this is what I do. Like, I can make you a different person, or I can make you disappear altogether. And he took me back to his place. And then after that, he took me back to the restaurant. And this time it wasn't, it was just like, this is what you're going to do. We're going to teach you to dance. We're going to take you to these clubs. You're going to dance with these men. You can keep the $5, but whatever else is going to be ours. And I didn't know what to do. And here's this one guy that came in, and he didn't ask how much, and they kept trying to pull me away from him, like, because they acted like they didn't know him. I guess he wasn't a regular, so they felt like something was off with him. And when both the manager and the owner went to the bathroom at the same time, he grabbed me by the hand and we started running. And I remember reaching for the girl because I didn't want to leave her. But I left her. And when we got into his truck, I still remember the exact parking spot. And this is when I was 19, and I'm 38 now. So but I still remember the layout. I still remember every detail. But I can't remember what I ate last week. I remember that.
So I'm going to interrupt a little bit here for a second. So what happened to the guy? Is he in jail now? Did he get caught?
No.
Did other people get caught?
No. So what happened was when we escaped, and the guy took me back to his place, and it's like, you don't have to do anything. You're safe now, whatever. I remember driving by the next day, and that place was gone. They had packed up and left. The girl had disappeared. They had shut down.
Gone, like it just closed? Nobody's there anymore? Just disappeared?
Yeah, just closed the very next day. I did hear rumors when I was doing human trafficking work and trying to help other women escape. He did kind of move to the next town over. And he was still doing the same thing. What he was doing was renting places and saying, like, doing little bars. But it was mostly in the Spanish community. So it kind of went under the radar, where he was renting buildings, probably under someone else's name, but people knew who he was. The Spanish people in the community knew who he was, at the very least. It was very popular. I've learned that people are trafficked different ways. And like how I said that they were going to take me to the bars and have me dance. So that is typically how Spanish people are trafficked. So yeah, that's what was kind of happening there within that community. Like I said, other people get trafficked other ways.
Did the police ever get involved? Like, did they even try to find him?
I went to the police a few years later. It took me many years to realize what happened because it didn't click. I thought I was just, hard. I didn't realize that I was trafficked until actually 2017 when I was working at a DV shelter, and I had called this lady saying, hey, I'm getting my degrees. I want to be a counselor. I want to help other women that have gone through DV. And I was telling her my story of how I met, my ex that saved me. And she goes, honey, you weren't just DV. Like, you're not just a survivor of that. You survived this. And I never realized. I didn't have a way of giving it a name until then.
I still think somebody should have been able to help you find them, put them in jail, because if they're still around, they're doing this to other people, and it's kind of terrifying. But I think we don't need to know like all of the details. I know you have a book about this that people can buy, right?
Blocked it, actually.
Oh, you blocked it. Well, there used to be a book that you could read that
Yeah.
goes over this details, but
Like I said,
I
it's
don't
been a
think
minute.
I don't think we need to. I don't think we need to dig in too deeply. I just want,
No,
you
that's
know,
actually all I was going to say about it. But yeah, my memoir was out for a minute, but I kind of put it under where they wouldn't type it up anymore, because that's why I did this book. And why I kind of stopped telling my story for a minute, because it was part of a healing journey. Is that first I thought I had to say it, I had to get it off my chest and I had to get it out. And I feel like, and now I'm almost at a different spot in my life where I don't want to be just a survivor anymore. Like I thought when I went to school, oh, this is what happened. And the only thing I can do is be a counselor, because that's the only thing I would be good at. No one told me that I could have done different things. So this is me figuring out that I can write about different things. I could do different things. Yes, it's part of my story. And I did write about some of my stuff in my afterthoughts because I linked to these women, but it's more. My story is more than just this or what, just my past. Now it's growing into something way more. And so that's why I had actually stopped that part of my life, because I'm like, I'm not there anymore. And I don't want to feel like I'm stuck there.
Yeah. Well, I know writing true crime could be traumatic in itself, just from what I've experienced. But Amanda Lewis is asking what the name of your next book is that you're working on. I believe it's something to do with children killers.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The child killer.
Yes. I'm working on 2 books. I need to focus. I need to focus on one. But I like to multitask. So I'm working on what I call Cain's Children. And like I said, I have my background in criminal justice and psychology, but I also have theology. And so I wanted to do something, like I said, with the women. I added my afterthoughts, which is something that most people don't do in true crime, which I dug into the psychology more of it. And so I was like, what can I do with this book that is different? And so I'm actually taking the old, question, is it nature versus nurture? But I'm doing a twist on it. What if it was actually the mark of Cain? What if it's older than what we thought? What if it goes back to the very first murderer, Cain? And what if these children are marked because of that? Because why else, would children be killers? Like, what is in their minds that it's just something that kind of, I'm always asking the why. Why did they become monsters? And so I'm always searching for that answer. So I'm kind of going more that route with that book. And then the other one that I'm working on is called Killers of the Cloth: When Faith Turns to Blood. And it's going to be more about celiac, Miss Sister Godfrida. So it's going to go more into nuns, pastors, preachers, really people that were really heavy on their faith who were murderers.
Is there a lot of those kinds of killers? Because I don't think I know any off the top of my head. I know I've recently read about a woman who she was what is this? Sangria? No, that's a drink, right? Sangria. What is that faith that it's like voodoo?
Santa Rita?
Yeah.
I think I said it right.
No, I don't think it.
I know which one you're talking about.
They don't practice Santeria. That's how I remember that song by, who is that old band? They don't practice Santeria. They ain't got no crystal ball. If I had $1 million, who knows that song? But that's the first time I've ever heard of that religion. Santeria, I think Santeria. Yeah. It is, I think she was practicing as some kind of regular everyday preacher. And then behind the scenes, she had a secret place where she was practicing, satanic rituals and killing people. I think that was, let me see. I've got one. I think I just made the video on this one. Yeah, this, I think it's this one. Jerry. Yeah, this is one of the stories you wanted, you mentioned that you liked a lot and that you wanted to talk about it.
Geraldine Parrish cloaked herself in religion and ritual, but behind the storefront church and spiritual talk was a murder for money plot so cold it stunned even seasoned detectives. By the 1980s, she was an ordained minister in Baltimore, delivering sermons at a small church while secretly practicing Santeria and voodoo. She convinced friends, tenants, and family members to take out life insurance policies with her as the sole beneficiary. Then, one by one, people started dying. Her most shocking target was her own niece, Dolly Brown. On September 19th, 1987, Dolly and her boyfriend were ambushed at a kitchen table. He was shot in...
So I'm going to stop it there, and I'll let you tell the story if you'd like. That's a nice little preview for you.
Yeah, she's one of my favorite ones I wrote about. Like I said, sometimes when you're writing, you're just in tears because you feel it so much. And then other times you're just like, no way. And she was more of like that type of case for me. She was more like, I was sitting there, I remember screaming, and my husband's like coming and going, are you okay? And I was just like, no, like this is crazy. And I just, every time I kept digging and digging, there was just something more unbelievable about her case. So yeah, she started, because I remember that she had a rough childhood, and she was like one of 12 siblings. And she had a couple of brothers that were shot and killed different times. She had a niece that was named after her that died very tragically. And so when she was a young adult, she had become a preacher, but behind closed doors, she was doing spells and hoodoo and voodoo and stuff like that. And she was taking money from the collection plates and stuff like that as well, from the church. And then she started to convince people to get life insurance policies, and then they'd end up dead shortly after. One thing that I noticed that was really strange, and that most people probably don't know when it comes to like insurance stuff, is that she would have what is called double anonymity. I think I'm saying that right.
Oh, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I know
and so if someone dies and she has that clause on them, if they die of like mysterious death, murder, she'd get double pay. And so yeah, she had let's see, so her niece was like one of the crazy people that she ended up trying to kill her multiple times. So back in September 19th, 1987 was the first attack. Her and the girl's boyfriend was in the kitchen, and here comes a bunch of men, running in with guns, and they shoot him, and he dies. They shoot her 4 times in the head. She survives. And then on March 6, 1988, while she's waiting for a cab at her grandmother's house, she gets attacked again. This time her throat is slit from behind. She survives yet again. And I'm like, oh my God, this girl, like she's such a survivor. Like, this is crazy. May 19th, 1988, she gets shot again 3 times in the head. And again, she survives. So she's been shot in the head 7 times.
When I survives. I'm just going to interrupt you for a second, because this is one of the weird thoughts I had whenever I'm reading this story. I'm like researching, trying to find out what's going on. And I hear this, and, they talking about this Santeria stuff. What if the niece was practicing this and like she had some protection spell, right? And like, that's how she survived. Who survives that? Like, not just once, but, That's a lot of like just random luck.
It was. And but if you look at her other victims, some of her other victims, it starts to make maybe a little bit more sense. So it's actually like Helen Wright, who survived being shot twice in the eye and survived. And then there was another one, like her very first hit, the guy, they shoot him in the head and he survived. So multiple people, like 3 other people survived, but they didn't survive multiple times. They survived like once, and then she went back and killed him again. So this is like in the 80s. So I'm wondering if the guns that they were using were just horrible.
Hopefully it was. I mean, what do you know? What caliber gun? Because it
No,
sounds like they're
that I
using
did not
maybe
find out.
a pellet
So
gun
that
or
was just
something.
something that I was thinking, well, maybe they're using like these street guns and stuff like that, and they're just not great. But then she did survive the throat slashing too. And
Mhm.
it's crazy, like how Jodine gets caught is that another hitman that was going around doing this, but not for her, had gotten arrested for murder. And he's sitting there and he actually is confessing, going, I want a deal. I know about this woman who's doing all this, and she's not on their radar. And he starts talking about Dolly, her niece. And he goes, this bee won't die. Like, he can't kill her.
Mhm.
And they start going, wait a second. This girl came to us and told us that someone was trying to kill her, but we didn't believe her because she had a drug problem. And back then, they were thinking all these incidences were just inner city violence. They weren't looking into them. They actually thought Dolly was a little cuckoo. And then they're like, oh man, like this is what was going on. And then so then they went and they went to her mother's house and served warrants, and they found 54 life insurance policies that she had on other people, not including the people that she's already killed. 54 current life insurance policies.
How much money did she collect before she got caught?
Thousands. It was a whole lot. Because I know that she killed at least 15 people, or had at least 15 people murdered. Um, it, it was a lot. Some of the policies ranged from about 2,000 to 10,000. But like I said, a lot of them were double indemnity clauses, so a lot of those got doubled. And it's just crazy though that you're thinking 54 policies and she's already killed 50, and she just kept going and kept going and kept going. And it was almost like she was collecting them, and she's just getting away with it for so long. She even married her own nephew. She had her nephew convinced that they weren't related. She actually took him to another state to meet another man that she had paid to pretend that was her dad so that she can say, we're not related, see? And yeah, she just her ability to manipulate people around her was just crazy.
You know, this story reminds me of one of the trivia questions I wrote about. Sometimes I do these fact or fiction kind of things, and it's a story about a man who was an alcoholic, who the bartender like had him sign over a life insurance policy, and so he could have free beer. And I'm trying to see if I could find it and remember what his name was, because I'm not able to think of it. If any of you guys remember that one, that would be cool. I could probably just Google it faster. They say he was like murder. He had like 10 murder attempts, and he survived every single one.
Yeah, that does sound like it belongs in this story.
Just give me a second. Michael O'Malley or something like Michael Malloy. Michael Malloy. That's the guy. Let me see if I can find that trivia question. Nope. I can't search the posts, apparently. I can only search the videos. Oh, here it is. I found it, actually. So I have to get to the right screen. I don't actually have a monitor. I have this TV that I use as a monitor. But Olga and Molly. Yeah, I couldn't remember that song. It's from like the 90s, so it's really old. And Sublime seems like it used to be a common name. Everybody used to know that band, but now they don't. But let's see. Nope. Well, I guess I can't actually look at it. Okay. Sorry, this isn't supposed to be like so hard to do. But I guess I have to go through the hard way and look for it. It's somewhere close. Let me see if it, well, here, I could share the Wikipedia page, I think, instead. But this guy, it's just a scary story. I guess this was during the Depression, and he was a drunk. He used to be a good guy, and he got in, when you turn alcoholic, everything changes. I don't know what that is, but this is Michael Malloy. And I guess, yeah, he was a former firefighter, and he survived a number of attempts. I've heard more than this. I think the actual attempt was something like 6 or 9 that they can actually verify. But they stuffed like nails in his mouth and tried to kill him like all these horrific ways. And then they would think he was dead. And then he would just like show up the next day for more beer and alcohol, and it was only, I know it says something, yeah, right here, $2,000 life insurance policy. But back then, this is in the 1920s and 30s, $2,000 would have been a lot of money. But yeah, I think you should check that story out because it does kind of relate to the one of this woman who survived 3 times. This guy survived more, and they're, I mean,
I thought
crazy.
hers was crazy. But yeah, like the insurance policies, sometimes I would always have to like look up. I'm like, how much is that? Like in today's money. That's one thing I try to look up and include in my books. I was very big on the research, and I would just spend, days literally like researching one thing, but I'm talking about day and night. Like I would just be like on the computer for like 19, 20 hours straight and compiling, and then I'm like, and digging, and you get a lot of different stories, a lot of different versions as well. And like sometimes I know for like the famous wrestler lady that was supposedly the first female killer in Mexico, there's quite a few different versions on hers, and most of the time I can cipher through and figure out which one's more accurate based on like the newspapers and stuff like that I could dig through. But with hers, there was like I think like 2 or 3 different versions, and I couldn't decipher. So I'm just like, you know what, we're gonna put them both in here and let my readers know that I can decipher, and good luck. Like maybe you can make more heads or tail of it than I can, because sometimes that's part of it, is that especially with these women, there was so many different versions because for instance, like one of them that we were going to talk about, Roberta elders. And I want to talk about her because she was from Atlanta. But part of her story is that there was only one newspaper that wrote about her, the Pittsburgh Carrier, and they weren't even from Atlanta, right? They came a long ways, and they kept saying, "We have a serial killer," and no one believed them. No one listened to them, and so I can find very, very little about her. She almost disappeared from history altogether, and she killed, I believe, it was 10 or 15 people, but she killed her family for insurance payoffs, and some of them were as little as $50. Her first person that she killed was her husband, who was a preacher, and then she killed his daughters, because they were a mixed marriage. So she killed her own mother. She killed a lot of people. She killed the grandchildren, and it took them 15 years to even catch her. And finally, the coroner catches her and realizes that, with his daughters, hey, something's not right. She was giving them poison through their milk. And so she gets caught, but they ended up, let me see, what did they ended up giving her in her time frame? Because I remember that they couldn't really pin it on her because it was was circumstantial. Here it is. So what did they give her? How many years? They gave her life, but they took off the death penalty because of the same, the evidence was all circumstantial. Here's the life insurance range from 50 to 550. But it was just almost, like I said, almost completely erased. And it was during the 1950s. And I couldn't even find out when her birth date was. I couldn't find out where she was buried. I remember in the next state over was the Giggling Granny. So y'all probably heard of the Giggling Granny, right?
Yeah, they have, because I've talked about the Giggling Granny many times in my trivia, because it's a funny name, but it's a really disturbed person. She was just like laughing about, like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, she killed her husbands and then would laugh.
Yeah. Well, I think when she was arrested at the end, she was just like still acting like her normal sweet old lady self with the police, even talking about murder. But one thing I've noticed doing true crime and stuff is that there is so much speculation that gets presented as facts. It's hard to figure out what's what. The quickest way is by looking at police reports, but even those aren't always accurate. The way the police see things isn't always exactly how they actually were. It's all perspective, and that's all you really get that's what I see anyway. There's a lot of speculation. It's presented as fact, and the facts that you do have, like, they're not always the same facts that everyone gets. Like, when the detectives are searching, they hear one thing and it gets translated on the page another way, or, they don't check other facts and things get missed.
Yeah. So I prided myself on really trying to figure out and deciphering what was factual as much as I could, and what was exaggerated, or what through the stories, which one was the most truth. And if I couldn't, then I put that in there. These are the versions that we have. I thought it was very important to write it in that way.
So let's talk about your new book that's coming out. When is it coming out?
I'm hoping to be done in 6 months. And that's my goal. But I had to take a minute. I had to take a break from writing because when COVID was happening and everything, and I was looking for a job, because I was doing the nonprofit stuff on the side, and I was using my money to help a lot of the women and stuff, and so I needed to find my own job, and I had to get the COVID shot to even get an interview. And I got the COVID shot, and it seemed to have activated what's called fibromyalgia. And so I've been kind of dealing with that for the past year. it's just chronic, severe pain. Sometimes I can't even move or get out of bed. So sometimes, like when I'm writing, I'll have to use headsets because my hands and my arms are the thing that hurts daily. And so sometimes I have to learn and teach myself it's okay to take a break. Because like I said, I'll be on the computer researching and writing for like nonstop, like sitting there for 10 hours and won't move. So I'm really having to learn to pace myself with this one and try to just take my time.
Yeah. I've noticed more since I started doing shorts. Whenever I like do a whole bunch of different stories, I think it's harder for me to deal with it than it is if I'm like researching one big case. I seem to be able to detach more, but I don't know. I'm probably going to not do so many shorts in the future, or I've actually started doing my trivia for the next month or so is probably going to be other types of crimes. Still true crime, but you know, 70-year-old grandpa is robbing a bank is a lot more, easy on the heart.
It is, and dealing with these children killers, a lot of times they kill other children because the children are smaller. They're going to target somebody that's smaller than them. So like the first one that I started researching, he actually had the girl under his bed for like 4 days. He hid her under his waterbed. And I was just like, wow. I had to stop writing for like 2 weeks. I couldn't.
There was
do it
another
for 2
girl.
weeks.
We call her look up the girl in the box. That story is insane. She lived under a bed in a box. And there was a married couple. I believe I can't remember her name right off the top of my head, but I think she was hitchhiking in California and was thankful that she got a ride. And she noticed that they had a baby in the van. So she didn't think anything of it when she got in, and she never got out.
Wow. I think
they didn't just.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's other things that can happen to you besides getting murdered. That's worse, And these people, there's a lot of this. I mean, it seems like a lot because I'm researching it, but I still think it's rare, but it doesn't feel rare when you're writing about it all the time. You know what I mean? Like, but there's other stories where they capture people, torture them, and release them, like the toy box killer. But look up the girl in the box. That's a really sad story. I think she actually got out once and was allowed to go see her mother. And she lied to her mother for some reason.
Kind of reminds me of that story. Who was that? It was a Lifetime movie about that woman that was the mother didn't even know that the father was keeping her in the basement, and he had like 3 children with her.
No, that was a different guy.
That reminds me kind of that story.
Let's see.
The newest one the one that I'm researching now, it's actually very recent. Have you heard about he was 2 years ago, he was 10 years old and he killed his mother over VR set.
And I've not heard that one.
Yeah, it's going through court now. He's looking at 61 years. He's 12 years old now. He's looking at 61 years.
That's insanity. I don't know if a child should get that much prison time. Even like the kids, like, what was his name? Ethan Crumbly, the guy that murdered a bunch of kids at school. Like his parents bought him that gun, and I don't know. They got jail time as well as him, but I feel like it was also the court system failed. The court system, the school system failed because they didn't prosecute the counselors and the teachers who saw this stuff happening. And then they just let him stay at school. If they would have sent him home that day or made him go to the hospital, talk to a psychiatrist, that day, he wouldn't have went back into the classroom, grabbed his guns and went crazy,
I think I know what case you're talking about.
I think it was Michigan, right? And
well, there was one recent, because I remember my daughter came home crying because it was 2 hours away from us. The Apache school. Is that wasn't the one you were talking about?
No, Ethan Crumbly was the kid's name. Let me see if I can find.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
I've got a video on it on my channel. It didn't do very well, but sometimes with true crime, YouTube doesn't want to share it with people. But I'm trying to see what he was 15. Ethan Robert Crumbly. He had a handgun. He killed 4 students and injured 7 people. One of them was a teacher, and the teachers got it the worst, I think. Let me see what before I get too far ahead here. Sorry, I can't see.
So when I was in school, it was the Columbine happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was, I think, the first one. I'm trying to see what Michigan. Yeah, it was in Michigan, Oakland County, Oxford High School in Michigan. But one of the teachers, she's herding in all the students into these safe places, right? She sees Ethan coming down the hallway and she's trying to herd him in there with him. And then all of a sudden she realizes there's something different about this one, the way he's walking, the way he's like, and she doesn't even have a second to like do anything. And she gets, shot. She didn't die, but it's scary, man. Those teachers are not security guards. They're not psychiatrists. They're not, they're getting to where they have to be trained in these things, but it's just insanity that this kid was sent to the school counselor for showing them violent pictures that he drew in his notebook with guns and blood and all this stuff. And they let him go back to class, with all of the federal laws out there now. It's just crazy. And the parents were neglectful. I don't know that they really, I don't know that I agree that they went to prison too, but I kind of do, I feel for them because, if they're working all the time, they're working, nobody's going to believe that their child is like the bad guy. They don't want to. I wouldn't want to. But yeah, Olga, yeah, they definitely gave him the gun. They bought it for him. They took him to the gun range, let him practice. But sorry, got distracted there.
Yeah, it seems to be. It's scary. It's scary. Like I said, my daughter she's a senior this year, so she just graduated. The other one, he kind of like dropped out and went to college and is getting his college degree while getting his high school diploma at the same time. And then I had the other one who's just highly autistic, so we homeschool him anyways. But it was getting to the point where they had 4 school threats in 1 year. And there was one kid that was right around the corner of the school, got hit by a school bus and had a gun on him. And that was super scary. We don't know if he was going to the school or not, but he face planted into the side of the bus on a dirt bike. And it was like, yeah, it's time to go. And then my kids were saying, yeah, they'll be talking about swatch it or whatever they call it now. And he's like, they were telling me they would see guns all the time. They would be in the backpacks all the time. And there was at the beginning of the school year, there was a kid that the very third day of school, there was a fighting in the cafeteria and they pulled out a gun. And the school just covers it up. Most of it, they were just like, yeah, they just give you a phone call and that's all you get.
That's crazy. I'm thinking back when I was in the 4th grade. I think it was the 4th, maybe it was the 2nd grade. I don't remember, but we used to get bomb threats. There wasn't gun threats when I was a kid. And then somebody would be like, the other kids would be like, I think I heard ticking over by this fence, blah, blah, blah. I remember those things. And, I always thought it was fun because we got to go out into the big field and just like hang out and play kind of back there far away from the school. And now as an adult, I think back on that stuff and I'm like, I can't believe that felt normal. I can't imagine what kids feel nowadays when they're in school. it almost, I mean, the Ethan Crumbly video that I made, I suggested that we're going to be seeing virtual classrooms where everyone's at home, but they're sitting in a virtual classroom with a VR headset, and they look next to them, they see the kids next to them like a real classroom. I mean, it's going to be something like that at one point or another. People are going to stop letting their kids go to school. It's not safe,
They're starting to do that now. I mean, they have like the online, you can opt since COVID to keep them online. And I know that so much now is going online. Even in school though, it's like I remember my kids would come on, they would hate it because it was all in the Chromebook. Like they just give them a laptop and set it in front of them in school now, and they're just like, here, do your work on the computer. So it's whether you go in person or you're staying at home, it's still all over the computer. That's the way they do it now.
I think if you're at school, you're going to do the work, but if you're at home, you're going to find things to do that's not school. But I don't know, like, I've talked to many people who've had like their kids are like at school, they get a phone call and everybody's like panicking, parents are like not allowed I mean, their kids aren't allowed to bring phones to school anymore, but parents want their kids to call them if something happens so they can come and try to do something, or at least, I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard that some schools are passing that. My daughter, I think, told me about it.
I don't think
they're making that a new rule now.
Yeah, no phones.
Yeah, I think at least in our state, they're making it a new rule where kids can't have cell phones.
I mean, I get that they shouldn't be using their cell phones, but they should be able to call their parents during school if something, especially if emergency happens. They don't want the kids calling home because then the news probably shows up. All of that stuff happens. And I mean, I guess there's reasons for it, but I don't agree with it at all. But it's just, man, there was a guy on American Idol a couple of years ago who he survived the school shooting, He didn't make it past the first couple of rounds, I think, but his story, when he told it, like, you immediately wanted him to win. Just what he went through it's crazy. But there's always been these bad people. We just choose not to know about it. I don't know that it's any better to know than it is not to know, because I don't know. It seems like in the last year that I've been doing true crime, I've gone from like, well, I'm aware of these things, but I'm not really aware of these things.
Yeah.
Now I am, and it's been going on like this forever. It's just crazy how disgusting people are. And I always have to remind myself there's more good people than bad, no matter, even if it's like 51% are good, there's always good, always wins in the end. But
I think that's the reason why I chose the women to do first, because one, I wanted to know, why didn't become the monsters like they did. I wanted to know what was different between me and them. And so that's why I chose them. And then it was also like the fact that they were so hidden compared to males. Serial killers are so different. And then just researching them and just learning more about them, it was just more fascinating. And then I started going for my second book. Like I said, I want to do all my books, things that are even the hardcore true crime, writers don't like to write about, that even they won't question the why, because it's so hard. And yeah, it makes it, like I said, or days where I have to just take a break or have to like connect back to my humanity, because I'm just like, I have to either detach or do something. And sometimes I realize I'm detaching too much or I'm too emotional. And it's hard trying to find the balance sometimes.
I think something that works is to like have something close by wherever you do your work, and just like, an object of some kind, and just like whenever you start feeling that, just grab that, look at it, and remind yourself that you're not in the story. You're safe, and it helps some. But I know that whenever I'm doing a big, like a long story, where I spend a lot of time researching the same case, that's when I get to look into the psychology behind the why did this happen rather than how did this happen. And it's the how that's really affects me the most. I don't like the gory details. I don't like it at all. I definitely don't want to see it. It's easier to read about it than to see pictures about it for sure. But even, I've got a good imagination. So
Yeah.
after a while, you start like, oh my God,
Uh,
I got to watch like the Mighty Ducks for a couple hours, something home, like something that feels good, feel good
I
movie.
think one time, one time I had to be like that kid again, and I put on Frozen. I was like,
Yeah.
I just gotta, I just gotta watch something. I gotta get, I need all off right now. I needed to just like get out of my head. And so, yeah, that happens a lot with some of these cases. But I feel like somebody has to write them. And I don't know why I feel like, you know, why I'm putting myself, like to be that one of those people that do.
Mhm.
But like I said, I guess because,
There's, there is, I don't know if, I don't know how to explain. I think that there is some good in knowing about these things, not letting them just disappear and to let everyone think that the world is 100% safe. But, at the same time, saying like explaining all of these cases all of the time, it wears you out. It's hard to talk about it. If you think about the Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, where they talk about their son who died in a drunk driving accident, or their daughter, and they go for
yeah,
like 20 years and they tell the same story over and over. Like, I can't imagine doing that. It would be too much for
it's,
me. But
yeah,
for
that's
them,
not,
it's like therapeutic. So I don't know.
I get
Molly's
both ends.
Molly's talking about there's a lot of cyberbullying, and he says when his daughter or Molly, I don't know if you're a man or a woman. I don't think I've asked that before, but when their daughter was a freshman, uh, they texted her and she got her phone taken away. I think that's not fair. Like, kids should be able to at least wear a watch that they can
Uh-huh.
say, hey Siri, text so and so, text mom or dad, you know, because I mean, there's got to be some way. Some teachers and some schools have like a, their work badge, and they just push a button and it activates like, 911. Um, kids should be able to have something like that to talk to their parents, like a fast way to like alert them if something crazy is happening. But I feel sorry for, my kids. Like, bullying was different when I was a kid than it is now. We didn't have social media. I just can't imagine what it's like being a kid these days. But, when they got their phones in school and they're like scrolling through TikTok, I would be an annoyed teacher also. But there's got to be some other way that they can do something to allow some kind of alert to the parents without their phones if they're not allowed to use them. How old are your kids, Olga? Olga says her two kids have cell phones. My kids are, well, one of them's going to be 9 in a couple of months. Today I saw costumes in Costco, and my son's birthday is by close to Halloween, so he's about to be an old man. He's going to be 9 this year. I don't think it'd be wise for my kids to have cell phones at that age. I mean, I don't know. They're like when I'm talking to my kids, they live in Arizona with their mother. When I'm talking to them, they're like, you know, doing this, like they got me on FaceTime thing, you know, Facebook Messenger video, and then they're like whispering to each other, and I can tell they're like trying to access things, you know, on their mom's phone, like buying stuff and like, hey, this game's really cool, but you got to have all these coins. I can just imagine them like click, click, buying stuff. I don't know. It's just a crazy world. But yeah, kids, there was a book I read. I think it was back in like 2005, and it was already an old book called Children Without a Conscience. And like, I still think of that book, and it gives me the, like, it's just, I think the first, like, it wasn't even the actual story yet. I think it was just in the introduction. They talked about a child who drowned another child because somebody had told them that when you drown, some white stuff comes out of your nose. And he wanted to see if that was true. And that's scary. Like, I mean, it's really scary. But if you want a good book on child killers, that is one. It's called Children Without a Conscience. I think it's got a much longer name, but it was something I read in one of my psychology classes, or I think it was actually a sociology class.
Oh, those were fun. To me, those were the best ones when I did psychology. But I went to, so when I was doing my master's program, I went through, theology first, and then I felt like they were just a little too close-minded. Like they weren't letting me question things, and I like to question everything. I want to know the why behind everything. And so I was like, yeah, maybe I'll just be better in psychology again. So I switched it back, but I was still in a Christian college. And so some of the classes were still Christian counseling based. And I'm like, all right, the first thing we're taught is to be open-minded, and they would throw their religion in there, and it would make me so mad. Because I get like both ends. Like I understand both ends, but if you're going for psychology, it's not theology, and it's supposed to be more.
I tried to get into this class called Philosophy of Religion. It was always filled up, but I think it would have been a cool class. I never got to take it though. But I think there's a lot of like things that overlap in the way we think about life in general. So I'm open to reading about that stuff.
That's what I think I really want to like come out like for my third one that I'm still kind of working on in the background when I'm working on the second one and doing the killers from like the churches is I want to kind of get and dig into their mindset and dig into how, like, the religion of it, why they were taught this or why they seen it differently. And I'm not talking about like war, killing in the name and the war. I'm talking about, no, they were either serial killers like Sister Godfrida. I read about her. I read about like 2 nuns, but I read about Sister Godfrida. She wasn't really known, right? And her story was crazy too, because there was a theory that she had a brain tumor, right? And the church paid for her surgery, so to say. But there's also was rumors by the other nuns that she was already addicted to heroin, cocaine, and alcohol. And so the thing was back in that time frame was when I started researching was that time that the lobotomy was coming out, and the lobotomy was actually first done for addiction. And so during that time frame, that's what they used it for. And so I started wondering, maybe the brain surgery that the church, quote unquote, paid for it wasn't for a tumor. Maybe it was really the lobotomy to stop her addiction problem, but it actually made it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then she became a serial killer. So I'm like, who's responsible here? Is it the doctors that did the surgery? Is it the church? Is it her? Or is it like a mixture? Like, who then becomes responsible for these elderly people that she killed.
Mm. Yeah, I've been trying to figure out killers for a while, and I just don't think that somebody who's not a killer is ever going to understand the reason. Like, even if you know, like, the psychology, it
Yeah,
still doesn't make sense. Like, there's what is causing it? Is it just
yeah.
some,
In each
hormone,
case is different.
some wires are crossed wrong, something in their past kind of like changes them? I mean, is it just biology, even, the neurotransmitters firing wrong? You got too much dopamine or not enough something else. Um, I don't think, I mean, I can't, I've really tried to understand this stuff, and you can't understand a killer. Like, none of the reasons that you can come up with actually makes enough sense to me. The One That Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a good book. I love the movie also, but the book is way better. Have you read that book or watched the movie? Has Nicholas
The name sounds familiar, so I think I probably watched the movie. But like I said, when I do true crime, like I will listen to podcasts sometimes, but I never actually read. I like to do my own research, so when I'm like reading, I'm digging into case files. I never actually read someone else's
You should try
work.
reading In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. I think that's how you say his name. But that book is not like a regular, traditional, boring true crime book, and it's about a obscure case. But the man's pretty poetic in his writing. Let's see. You got a couple questions here. April, do you think killers are made or born? I think she's Russian, and her English comes out a little weird sometimes. Sorry, Olga. Didn't mean to out you.
No, I think it's a mixture of both. Like that's what I wanted to get into with Kane's children and why I chose children. I think it can be either or a mixture. And that's what I'm digging through each of the cases specifically, going, could this have been something that's more ancient than we realize? Could it be something like a curse? Have you ever heard of the Mark of Cain? Do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
So for those that it's kind of don't really know a lot about theology, so the Mark of Cain is basically the first murder, right? So there's different versions of it. I think the oldest version of the Cain and Abel story is in the Quran. And but there's, like I said, there's different versions. It's actually even in different religions. If you look in Hindu, there's actually a story in the Hinduism that is very similar, and you're starting to go, but it all goes back to where they believe that Cain killed his brother over jealousy. Some stories are over the sister that they were fighting over who was going to marry, and he got mad that he wasn't chosen. Regardless, he got mad,
The
right?
story was he killed his brother coming out of the womb because he wasn't born first. His brother was, and he was jealous right away, right? Is that
That might be another theory. I haven't heard
like,
of that one, and I researched a lot
I
of it.
grew up in Christian churches. I don't know what name, but I think that's where I heard it before. Was like Cain came out of the womb a murderer, like right away.
Yeah, so that's where I was getting. So there are different theories. There are different theories that he was the son of Satan, but they believe that when he killed his brother, it triggered a curse. Some people believe that also the mark that he put on that God put on Cain was so that others wouldn't kill him. So there's a lot of different theories, and it's just like the nature versus nurture theory. But I think each case is different, and each case it could be that they were born that way. It could be their environment. It could be a mixture. I think we have to take each case individually and look at it and dig into it. And like you said, I don't think even if we do that, we really can truly know what the cause was. Or sometimes, like one of the things I think about, and I think about this because my dad actually met a serial killer. My stepdad, he said he was given a ride to a hitchhiker, and this is why he kind of warned us afterwards never to do it. But he would always just help anybody and everybody. And I remember when I was a teenager, he came home and he goes, "Oh my gosh, that guy was on the news. Like, he's seen him on the news." And I think it was just me and him in the living room. He goes, "I got that guy to ride." And he realized who he was. And it makes me think, why do they choose their victims too? Why do they choose some people and not the others? Why did he let my dad go that day?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the men killers that pick up hitchhikers target women. Like I'm thinking of Edmund Kemper, the co-ed killer from California. He targeted female hitchhikers. His mother worked at a college. There was lots of co-eds at that time. They were all hitchhiking to get from one town to the next. And I don't know. That's how he did it. But I think men don't usually get targeted.
They don't. They do sometimes. So men tend to kill differently. They tend to they kill for mostly sexual gratification and stuff like that. Women killers, it was so different from them because they tend to, kill for money most of the time, or they also they'll target people that's close to them. Men target strangers. Women target people close to home and their families and stuff. That was a big difference between the two of them. And then you also see where women have the more mercy killers. Those are the ones that got to me. The ones that would, be the nurses and would kill out of so-called mercy. Those cases always, those were some of the hard cases for me.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, the Golden State Killer. What was his name? Why am I forgetting everyone's name today? But he started out as breaking into houses. Then he escalated to rape. And then while they were looking for this guy, I guess there was a town meeting, and one of the men in the group stood up and said, well, if he comes to my house while I'm there, he's going to be the one that dies. So then it escalated further. And so he only targeted women who had their partner with them so that he could attack that. He would tie up the woman or the man first, I think they would have the woman tie up the man, and then he would tie up the woman. He would rape them and make the men watch, and then kill them. He didn't always kill them, I think, but he killed a bunch of people. Yeah. He's an old man now, and he was caught, I think, not too long ago. But he got away with it for years. He was going up and down the coast of California, Northern California, all the way down to Southern California. Just, D'Angelo. What is his first name? Oh, wow. This is crazy. I can't believe I'm forgetting everyone's name. Joseph James. That's what it is. Joseph James D'Angelo. He was originally the East Area rapist and the they called them Earons for one time because they had two different names, East Area rapists, and I forget what the O one was. But then he didn't catch on in the media until they started calling him the Golden State Killer. But initially, when he was killing these people, he was getting away with it because he was going to different jurisdictions. He was a police officer before this all started. So he kind of knew how the system worked. This is before the internet, so the agencies didn't talk to each other. Even in the same city, there's subsections of police stations, and they wouldn't communicate. And that's how he got away with it for so long.
There's a lot of serial killer men that I noticed that were truck drivers and stuff like that. Because they would do that. They would travel in different jurisdictions on purpose. So they did jobs that allowed them to do that and travel.
Yeah, I was just reading about one guy. I think it was maybe the Happy Face Killer. I think he was a truck driver, and he had a daughter, and she didn't believe he did it. I mean, it's weird. But yeah, But I think some of the scarier people are the ones that, like the toy box killer. I don't think he actually got charged with killing anyone, but he would capture people, torture them for months, and then he would use drugs on them. And so, and basically by the time they were done, they couldn't remember where they'd been or what they've been through, completely brainwashed in that sense. And I've always wanted to write a abduction story that turned out to be this guy instead. You know, the guy thinks he's abducted. He disappeared for like 3 weeks, right? And he remembers, you know, these evil monsters probing him. It would be like one of these torturers, like the toy box killer.
So there's a woman that was in my book that somebody I read about. She kind of reminds me of her because she kind of like would have her boyfriends, but she would keep them, and she would like put them in like what do you call those sheds, like the metal ones, like the shipping containers. And she'd like kind of have them there, but the cops actually came out to her house and actually seen bones in her yard and like a finger, and they still let her, like they left, and she got rid of some of the evidence, and then they had to come back out and try to find more evidence, and then they found like his cell phone and his birth certificate in like the sewer. And she finally got caught, and like a bunch of like one of the boyfriends that had escaped came forward. And it was just horrific. Like she would target men that had disabilities a lot, and she was kind of not all there either, because she kept saying that she was killing them because they were pedophiles, and that God told her to. And it kind of got crazy, and she was one of the weird, very very weird cases, and a lot of abuse. But she reminded me more of like men and how men kill versus normally how the women kill. Because most of the women, you don't see a lot of the gore and a lot of the violence. Most of the time it's,
Cody Arias is not the case with her. How many times did she stab her ex-boyfriend?
in most cases, and most with most serial killers, it's like, they do it quietly. They kill, like I said, they kill the ones that they love, and most of the time it's for money or mercy, or they'll use like insulin, or they'll use what do you call it, arsenic. They'll kill them quietly, versus most of the time the men, because they have different motives than the men.
Yeah, I've been reading the book. Well, I kind of stopped for a while, but I'm about halfway through the BTK killer book, the autobiography, basically. And that guy was just a pervert who killed to cover up his crimes, not because he was out killing people, but he's still considered a serial killer. But he was really into bondage and self-gratification, I guess you could say. I don't know what to call it on YouTube, but that guy was sick, and he's been sick for his whole life too. And there's a lot of weird people out there, and I mean, I don't know. I just don't think there's a real way to understand them. And even if you do understand them, it's still not gonna, like, you can't spot these people until they're caught. Even if you suspect it, maybe you still can't. You can't know for sure until, like, they confess. But they, like the BTK, Dennis Rader, he was liked in his community. He had friends. He was a church president. He took his kids to Boy Scouts and stuff like that. And as much as I talk about this, hoping to like spot these people in advance, like I don't think you can until they're caught. Oh,
yes, I'm reading Molly. Is that how you say it? I'm reading her their comment. Yes. So Abel offered his firstborn flock, and Cain offered some of his fruit or land. So that's the most common version in most religions, is that Abel gave his best sheep, and Cain gave some fruit because he was a farmer, and Abel was a shepherd. And then, but where it kind of differs is where, like, why they're offering. You know, that some say it's for the sister's hand in marriage, and so it's also like the difference in the jealousy, like, did he kill him out of jealousy, or did he kill him for something else? Regardless, he got the mark. So I just thought that was, you know, kind of interesting. But yeah, I dug into like the different religions of the theories into my book. I'm stick mostly with the Christian Baptist version of it, and that one is more of the Christian Baptist version of it. But there are definitely different versions.
Do you want to read some of your book? Like the parts that, you know, your personal insights on that you wrote into them, you know? I mean, people could probably Google the main story, but if you want to talk about, you know, that and read something specific, we can do that too.
Let me see here.
Yeah, Olga, Julie, the phlebotomist. That woman is scary. And I've written about her. I haven't done a video on her. I actually, you know, Amy from Power Woman Radio, I wrote her a script so that she could make a video, but she hasn't done that yet either. But that girl is pretty scary.
Let me see, that's the Killers in Hills. Let me see if I can get this new one open up. So y'all getting a sneak peek on this one because I haven't, no one's read or heard anything on this one yet.
Yeah, I know a couple people got your book when it was listed for free. That you sent me the link on a couple days ago. I shared it, and a couple people got the book, and they seemed to liked it.
Oh, for Killers in Hills, yeah. Yeah, it's just now like it's taken off. Like I said, I just released it, but I kind of like left it to stay in the back rooms, so to say, because I was still like doing a lot of editing on it, kept finding little things. So when I finally felt like it was ready, then I released it on the ebook, and I did like the free promotion, and it is taking off, which is crazy. It's already on 8 international sites. No, actually, I just found it on more. And I just found it on Thrift Books, but not used, new, which is kind of rare for a self-publishing author to have their book put on like that one, or Waterstones, Saxo. So it's taken more off internationally than it is in the US already. And I think maybe because it's the niche. But I'm hoping that it will just continue to grow from here. I'm kind of nervous about what people think. I'm kind of like, because I'm nervous, like they're just because I do, like I said, I know I wrote it different from other true crimes. I know I went into more of the psychology. I went into my personal afterthoughts after each case. So I'm kind of like nervous about what people are gonna say or how they're gonna interpret it. But that's why I left it open, a lot of it. I left it, in the very beginning in the introduction, I did say, it's, your opinion may not be the same as mine and what you take out of this case. Most of the time, my afterthoughts are really my own thoughts of the case, and it's to get you to question things. It's to get you to question the case and to look deeper into the case besides the surface level of things. So that's really why I wrote my afterthoughts into them. But I don't know how people's going to perceive that, because that's normally not what they get in true crime. Normally they get the clinical, and I kind of wrote more clinical, but also more of a narrative style.
Mm-hmm. So I like writing in a narrative style also. It's a little, I don't know, writing like just listing the facts kind of feels boring. you know, like it was fine for the first like year that I was doing these. But all of a sudden one day I'm just like, man, this is getting boring. And I was like, what if I write in da 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 da? And I changed it from journalistic to literary, and it was way better to write it. People seem to like it, but then you have to mention, you know, this is mostly facts, but not quite, you know.
Yeah, I try to do a little bit more to keep it interesting, but I also wanted to keep it very clinical as well.
But I got the idea
where I let my afterthoughts shine.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too, having your thoughts on the case. I mean, you could probably even write it in throughout the whole thing too.
I thought about that, but I thought it would be best to leave it, you know, do the case, because the way some people do like it more clinical, and that way it kind of is a middle ground on both of those. It's kind of saying, you know, like this is where here's all the facts, and this is what I took out of it. Whether you take the same thing or it makes you think or makes you wonder or makes you question, then I did my job. But this is just like, you know, what I put out. In each case that I talked about in the after case, I did something different. So like a lot, and that was kind of hard to do on some of these women because, like I said, a lot of them, they kill the same way, or they, you know, it was a, so I had to find like something different on each case. Sometimes it was the societal view. Sometimes it was the disorder that they had, like Munchausen or whatever, you know, borderline personality disorder, DID, you know, having split personality. I tried to find something different to talk about in each case and something different to explore.
Yeah, I think that is what made I only read a couple of your stories in the Killers in Heels, and I did like the Amanda says she loves the afterthoughts. I liked it too. It just makes it a little different, you know, because I don't know, everybody tells the same kind of story when they talk about these crimes.
Yeah,
you know, it's kind
same
of because
facts. Like you can't help it a little bit.
And you got to make it your own, and I think that was a good way to do it.
I also tried to get a lot of the cases that weren't really known. I mean, at first, when I first started writing, I wrote about Bill, and I started writing, and then I started finding more cases that weren't known, and then I started trying to stick more towards that because I felt like people must be getting tired of seeing the same stories over and over and over again. So then I started switching it up some and started looking for cases that weren't as known. Definitely, and threw a lot of those in there.
I think the best storytellers are the ones that can tell the same story, but make it feel new. Because there is no new stories. Even like, I don't know if you studied any creative writing, but most creative writing teachers I've ever had have said that there's only like 3 stories. There's only like 5 stories. I had one say there's only like one type of story. It's a story of somebody coming or going from some place or in their life or physical place. It doesn't matter. But I mean, you can break it down to like every story is technically the same if you want to. But, you know, like man versus nature, like those things that I learned in like the 6th grade. Oops, I think we lost her. I think she can join back if you can still hear me, or maybe her phone died. While we're waiting for her to come back, I will share something I'm working on. Oh, wait. Would you guys rather see some Alaska stuff? I went for a drive today. I drove out to, well, I was on my way to Seward. Like, it's just a cool drive down going. It's called the Old Seward Highway. There's a train from Anchorage that goes down to Seward where you can get on a cruise ship and, you know, go up and see like a giant ice wall glacier. And it's really nice, but the road there is also pretty nice. Let me see if I can find a good one. I think she'll come back. Here. So let me turn off the sound. You don't need to hear me singing in the radio, but this is, you know, not very far from my house. I think, oh, we got her back.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Okay. I knew that was going to happen. I was like, I was trying to send my husband a text, bring me my charger, bring me my charger. That's like, whatever you're doing. And I guess he's not listening. So I'm like, I made sure my computer was fully charged before I came down here, because I had to come hide in the basement to get away from the kids, so it wouldn't be the house wouldn't be loud because I got like the boys. But at least I have my phone here, so we're back.
Yeah, I heard you say, "Oh and like that's all I heard. Like you didn't even finish. It was like the perfect like place to like bleep out the profanity. You know, it was kind of cool.
I was saying, "Oh shoot."
Oh, okay. But
oh yeah. So what did I miss?
I was just like filling in with some stuff. Nothing. I was gonna share.
I don't have a good charge on my phone, so we should be good.
Okay, I thought I'd share this clip that I've been working on. I showed it to you earlier. It's one of the stories in your book. It's not directly like one of your stories, but it's about somebody that you wrote about.
1912. In the narrow
And you guys have
alleys
to
of El
bear with the
Raval,
editing.
under the gaslight
share some
and
of this.
shadow, parents whispered of a vampire in their midst. Children from the poorest boroughs were vanishing, as if devoured by the city itself. By day,
You can see how I like to write. You know, it is the same facts, but it's a little more flowery, I think.
woman in tattered shawls roamed the streets, begging for scraps, or so it seemed. This was Enriqueta Marti, who donned rags like a disguise while hunting for unwatched children to snatch and corrupt. By night, the same Enriqueta swept into high society parlors in silken dress, offering the wealthy forbidden indulgences. She procured children for sex to satisfy the debauched tastes of Barcelona's elite. And
You know, I've been watching the Squid Game, and you know, after that's a weird place. I paused myself here. There we go. But the Squid Games, you know, they got these like really rich people coming out to watch these people kill each other, and you know, I wonder if they got the idea, the concept for that story based off of this woman. You know, she's like being approached by really rich, wealthy people to get these kids. Hey, JLO from Australia. April, this is one of the other people who got your book. She's from Australia.
their perversity craved darker miracles. She played the role of witch doctor. In her secret kitchen, the city's lost children were rendered into elixirs, salves of human fat, portions of blood, and ground bone, sold to cure tuberculosis or restore youth for those rich enough to pay. The rich did pay. In elegant townhouses, they whispered that a child's innocent blood could chase off death. They furtively financed Enriqueta's horrific commerce. It all unraveled over one missing little girl.
And that's going to be one short. I'm going to make a part 2 where you can find out what happens next. I'm trying to, you know, it's like 4.5 minutes long and it can only be 3 minutes. And I don't know. I want to make it a short. So I think that might be a good, you know,
that is a good book. Like a good hunger.
Yeah,
her story is very complex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her story is one of the more complex stories. And definitely one of the more intriguing. And I think with my afterthoughts with her, I definitely did do the society view of it. And the subplot in the band, I'm like, well, yeah, she's clearly, you know, has, you know, a psychopath, right? But would she have killed had it not been for the demand? You know, or would have somebody else have stepped in her place? That was my kind of afterthoughts with her because I just was so baffled. She got away with it for over 20 years. 20 years of kidnapping children. And I know at first she would kidnap them and it'd be as young as 3. 3 to 13 was the age that she would take these children and kidnap them and take them to fancy parties and sell them. And then she started to kill them. I think they found, it was very, very disturbing. They found bones and stuff in the walls and in the ceilings. She had multiple, I think she had like 4 houses that they found just all kinds of stuff in. But how they got her was crazy, like with the one child that went missing. But the police were actually smart on that one because they couldn't quite get into her house to search for the girl. So they actually went out and got a warrant saying that somebody made a disturbance report about hearing chickens, and that was against the law to have chickens in your house. And so that's how they got into her house.
Yeah, I thought somebody saw a little girl looking through the window of a house where nobody was supposed to be.
No, with her, it was that she noticed that there was a little girl playing with another little girl, and she knew about one of the girls, but she's like, who's this other little girl? And she asked Enriqueta about her, and she slammed the door in her face and told her, mind your own business. And so then she went to the baker and told the told the baker, and the baker went and told the police. But that's just how they got into the house, because they couldn't go and search for the girl. They didn't know how to write that up, so they just wrote it up as, somebody's hearing chickens in your house. We're going to check for chickens. And they got her. Then they found the 2 little girls. And then they just found everything else started to unfold. But it was way more than what they were. They never imagined that. She actually did get arrested before. And she was with like this rich son of someone. And so they had gotten arrested for prostitution for children, and paperwork disappeared. Just poof, gone. And that's like, how she kept getting away with it because they were rich.
Yeah.
So that was quite scary that she got away with it for so long because there was the demand. Everyone knew. The poor people didn't know. When they found out, they were in an uproar, because it was their children that was being taken.
Yeah, I was assuming they were just like the poor kids where the parents weren't paying attention, and that's why she got away with it for so long, until that one girl, their parents actually was looking for her.
We're looking for part of the problem back then, too, is that the parents had to pay to look for their children. They didn't have the money the resources to make flyers or to miss work or to even pay the police to do their jobs. So a lot of times the children just went unnoticed. She did take a lot of children from the orphanages as well, but she would lure them with candy and promises of food and warmth.
Yeah. So did you find a passage out of your book that you wanted to read?
My laptop. It's all on my laptop. Yeah, I had it pulled up and the laptop died.
Well, let me see if maybe I can pull up my Kindle on my computer screen. Maybe I can find something, just kind of share something. Probably won't be the one you're looking for.
You're better at reading it anyways. Like, just you have like, I don't know what it is. It's like, I guess like you say in your storytelling, it reminds me of like a campfire, I'm sitting around a campfire. And I remember one of my favorite campfire stories. I know this is a little off topic, but have you ever heard of the Ravenmocker story?
I think so, but that reminds me of the Raven from Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, yeah. No, this is the Ravenmocker is an old Cherokee lore. It's where they believe like they're shapeshifters. and they look half human and half raven, and they go and they feed off the dead, and only the medicine men can see them and can stop them. So it's almost like they're stealing the souls of the dying, and they're supposedly witches that have gone bad. And so that's my favorite campfire story. But your style of telling stories, it reminds me of just being around a campfire and just like listening to spooky, scary stories. So yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of spooky, scary stories here, before I got my Kindle up so I could show you. I'll read something from your book, but let me share this real quick first, just so you could see why you kind of get that spooky vibe from my storytelling. Where's the share screen? There it is. See that book right there? You Will Sleep with the Lights On. That is my book. It's a book of ghost stories. But before I got into true crime, before I had Timeless Mysteries, I had Dimension Beyond the Veil. It's a ghost channel, basically. I was telling ghost stories.
Oh, okay.
This book here, You Will Sleep with Your Lights On, with the lights on. That's more for, I'd say, teenagers. It's not really for kids, but it's not really like super scary, like adult scary. But I think Olga's read some of it. So is there any? Let me see. Is this sharing? Yeah. Okay. What number do you want me to go to?
Shit, I don't know. Randomly pick one.
Okay.
Just do a Russian roulette and just pick. There's so many good ones I can't. Oh, we were talking about Mary Jane Jackson before. I said I think you would like her.
Okay. Well, I just want to get to the part where it gives over your notes, and I don't think I can see it.
Okay, yeah, we talked about her afterthoughts a little bit.
But let me see. Trying to get it all on one page. Yeah, there we go. So, yeah. Okay, so it's sharing. So tell me a little bit about Mary Jane Jackson, and then unless you want to, I'll read your personal afterthoughts, or you can read them. They are your thoughts. It might sound better coming from you.
I can't see them on my screen. And I don't have my glasses because I'm used to like having to take them off with the laptop. But let's see, Mary Jane Jackson. Oh, you're more than fine reading it. It's still really, really tiny for me, so you're gonna have to do it.
It's still tiny. I'm trying to get it
like
big enough where the personal thoughts are all.
It's probably never gonna be big enough for me to read it, because it's like this big on my screen. The whole page. It's like not even an inch.
Oh, you're on a phone then. Okay.
Yeah, because my computer died. Remember, so I had to get back on and get on my phone.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, you can go ahead and tell me about her a little bit, and then I'll read your afterthoughts.
So, like I was saying before, Mary Jane Jackson was from New Orleans, and she was the co-leader of the first all-female gang. So I thought that was very interesting. With her, she was a prostitute since like the age of 12. That's kind of how she got into the life. And one of the crazy stories, like one of the people that she killed was Long Charlie. And she was at a bar and she just told Long Charlie, she's like, I'll make a bet with you that if I stab you, you would fall over forward. And he goes, haha, no, I'm going to fall over backwards. She goes, watch. And she stabs him and she stabs him in the groin. So, of course, he falls over forward. And she's like, see? And she just walks out. And she just like this, really all-American bad girl, right? Like she reminded me of Harley Quinn. She's just like crazy woman. And like I said, she ended up going to jail for murder. and she's sitting in there and she starts a relationship with a jailer, and he has like literally a mace for an arm, a ball and chain for an arm. Like, you cannot make this up. I was just like, this is crazy. And she ends up killing him as well. She ends up dragging him around the house with his ball and chain, and then ends up stabbing him. So she just, a lot with her, I think it was when we were talking about, do I think they were made or do I think they were born? I think in her case, it was definitely the environment for her. And then I was talking about the afterthoughts, which you can kind of go into with her. But I definitely think she was one of circumstance, most definitely.
Okay, so I'll read this, and then you can, explain more in detail afterwards. So just bear with me if I stumble over some of the words. But there are two key aspects of this narrative that warrant further exploration. First, the motivations behind Bricktop's actions, whether they were solely driven by survival, and second, the circumstances surrounding her disappearance and the reasons for her subsequent silence. Her story, while engaging in its complexity, often reads like a work of fiction set in a lawless frontier. It is plausible that that survival played a significant role in her choices. However, it appears that Bricktop also found a certain enjoyment in her criminal lifestyle, integrating into the underworld more seamlessly than many of her contemporaries. Her identity as a killer suggests a duality in her motivations, where the instincts for survival coexisted with a thrill for the life she led. Regardless her fate, one can ponder whether she simply adopted a new identity or met a more tragic end. It's conceivable that she succumbed to a disease, potentially syphilis, which was rampant in the late during the 1860s, and often linked to the lifestyle she led. The introduction of the Contagious Diseases Act in 1864 aimed to lessen the spread of such infections by regulating interactions between sex workers and military personnel, highlighting the precarious nature of her existence. The symptoms of syphilis could account for some of her behaviors that might be interpreted as manic. Ultimately, the enigma of Bricktop's life and disappearance leaves us with more questions than answers, as it seems unlikely a woman of her fierce disposition would simply vanish without a trace.
Yeah, so she, like I said, at the end of her, before she disappeared, she was in prison again, and they had, she had gotten out on clemency. And so she just disappeared after that. I'm like, this woman who literally like just stabbed a man just because she wanted to prove that he would follow her forward, and just all the like the crazy bar fights and the crazy stories, and her starting the first female gang in the U.S. I'm like, this isn't a type of woman that would just disappear. So that's when I started digging into what, and I knew about, human trafficking and sex work. So I'm like, well, what could have caused her to disappear? And so that's when I started researching and realizing that was really, really bad at that time. So I really think that, that she had that disease and probably could account for a lot of her behavior and possibly her disappearance.
Oops, sorry. I was trying to switch that back to your book cover, but I can't seem to find it. But yeah, it does sound like a really interesting story. The fact that she's got a mace arm. Isn't there an anime with a guy with a chainsaw arm? I've seen kids dress up like a chainsaw.
It's literally called Chainsaw something is in the name.
The chainsaw arm guy, the anime, right? I don't know.
My husband's gonna watch this later, and he's gonna be like, "I cannot believe you did not know that." I'm the one less nerd of the family. So, oh man, I'm trying to think. I think it's literally called Chainsaw Man.
I could probably Google it. So you got a really good book cover here, but I can't seem to share the book cover.
I think it took me forever to do that because I was like, I've been doing everything myself. That's been another learning journey, I would say, because publishers want about $7,000 to $10,000 just to publish my book because no one seems to do it the old ways anymore. And I'm like,
I've heard recently they want you to pay to publish your own book, and I thought, aren't I supposed to get like a check? And then you sell the book, then we all make money. But no.
Yeah, so I've been learning how to do everything myself, and definitely I'm actually helping other authors. Actually, right now I have like 3 other authors that have reached out to me. I don't know how people find me, but they do, and then they're just like, "Can you help me?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I'm helping another true crime author right now, and then I'm helping a lady write her. I'm not writing the books, but I'm just helping them, like motivate them. You got this. You can do this. And then when they get done, I'm helping them. Learn how to put it in Amazon and how to do the formatting to where it all works. And I need to actually work on my ebook formatting a little bit. That was the hardest thing. I thought I was gonna throw my laptop against the wall on that one. Mm-hmm. But learning, because these people, even if you find like not just the publishers, you got the people that want to charge, between they say between $200 to even up to $2,000 just to put it on Amazon and Kobo, or just to put on an ebook for you. And I'm like, watch this, and I learned how to do it myself.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of defeats the whole purpose if they're going to make money on you before you even make money. That's just crazy. It's like, what if it doesn't sell?
Well, I don't even make that much money. I know through the extended distribution that's allowing me to let other bookstores see it and decide whether or not they want to take it and put it in their stores. I only get like $2 a book. All said and done.
With Kindle, I think you get like 30% or something, or 70% if it's
under $9.99. And then that's for the ebook versions. I did enroll it in like free the Kindle Unlimited. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, it's still free for you, and I get paid by the pages, right? So somebody in the UK bought it yesterday because I just released it as an ebook like this week, and so somebody in the UK got it, and they read 9 pages, and I got like 4 cents. So I was like, woohoo, 4 cents. And then, but they actually went back and they continued to read it. So within the first day they read 9 pages, then today, because they just got it yesterday, today when I opened it, they had read 33. And then I opened it again and they jumped to 150. So within one day, they read 150 pages. Like they have just devouring the book. I'm like, man, they must have read like 15 women in one setting. I'm like, geez, I don't even think I did that when I was rereading my book to make sure it was good. So, but yeah, I think I'm up to 64 cents.
Yeah, I know what that feels like with like YouTube. You have to pay for all these apps, and it ends up being like you're paying $100 a month, for all these things. Like, I use Premiere Pro, and After Effects most of the time, and Adobe Audition. It's part of a suite package, and it's like, like $500 and $800 a year or something like that. Unless you sign up with a new email and then you could get it cheaper for 1 year, but then you lose all of your saved data. But it's not cheap. Like all the tools I use, I use like Canva also because it's super simple. It's like it does a lot of the advanced editing stuff that Premiere does, except it's you just click 2 or 3 buttons. It's not as good. but generally speaking, unless you're like a video file, like audio files, those people that got like super ears, like if you're a video person and you see all the details, then you can notice it, but most people don't. And I think like a lot of times it's easier just to throw an image into Canva and resize it and delete the background and then put it as a short, versus trying to use After Effects, spend all day letting the roto brush do its thing, and then it freezes up and you have to start all over. It's not like it's way better if it works, but it's so much harder, like time consuming. But I remember the first like 9 months that I had the channel monetized. I finally had enough people. I'm thinking, oh wow, I finally made it. I got 1,000 subscribers and I've had 4,000 watch hours. I think now it's actually 3,000 watch hours. But I made like 90 cents the first month.
Yeah,
and I made like by 9 months I had like $37 saved up. You can't get paid until you have $100. You don't even get your AdSense account fully set up until you've got one threshold like set up, and then you have to wait for another month for the pin to come so you can actually. I mean, it was weird, but the first time I got paid was like a year and 3 months into this.
And I thought I was upset. I was upset that it would take 3 months to get my first pay from Amazon.
My story is maybe not the same as everybody else's. Some people like, they get a video that goes viral in the first month and then boom, they make like $600. That didn't happen for me. But last year when my mom passed, I went through this weird emotional state, and then I wrote this really emotional like story. And like you said, you didn't know if you felt uncomfortable when you're putting those afterthoughts at the end of these things. I wrote this like Chris Watts story, and I, instead of like just doing all the facts, I put in all the like what I thought he was probably thinking throughout it. And it just like, I don't know, I tapped into the emotional side of the story and it just like exploded. And I got like $500 on that one video. And after that, my channel's been just growing. But since then, I've never had that happen again. I didn't get paid last month. Sometimes I won't get fully paid for like 2 or 3 months. But I do it for, I don't know what to call it. I feel like it makes me feel good to have content that people like, even if I don't get paid. It's like prestige kind of feeling. I don't know what else to call it. But anyways, we've been talking for 2 hours and 13 minutes. Time flies, but I think we should probably wrap it up. Is there anything you wanted to mention about your book before we get end this?
Like I said, you can. Ow, cat! Sorry, I got moved. Someone else's cat. I'm watching. Just poked me. You can follow, my book on crimeandpsychology.com, and like the new stories, the new books. You can find all the links on there. You can follow my author page on Amazon. And yeah, I'm excited to grow it and excited to just grow in my other stories. And I'm excited to start getting reviews in. So if you did get the book, please go in there and leave a review, because it allows other people to start seeing it. I'm no longer, like I said, in the back rooms. You can actually just Google, instead of putting in my whole name and address and everything into the search, you can just type in Killers and Hills and it pops up. And actually, if you type in women serial killers books, I think I'm number 66 on the list, which woohoo! I'm on the page. So it's a slow grow. So I really appreciate any feedback, any honest review. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, it sounds exciting. I'm happy for you. I mean, I know what it feels like to like finally get noticed. It's a little different with YouTube and a book, but still, I mean, it's got to be kind of the same, and it feels good. But I will finish reading the whole book, and I will leave a review.
I appreciate it.
it might take me a while. I'm always super busy, you know. Yeah, but I will do it. I promise I will do it, and I will leave a review for you. But I really appreciate you coming here. I'm glad you were able to share your story. I hope you had a good time. Maybe you can come back another time, talk about some more stuff if you like. But I just want to also thank everybody for being here and you know, watching this. And I hope you guys go check out April's stuff. I've got links to everything in the description. And is there anything else you want to say, April? I'm going to go ahead and
just thank you all, guys. It's like I said, it's definitely different from my memoirs. It's definitely different from just telling my story. So this is feels like I'm finally becoming who I was meant to be, being a true crime writer. So it's exciting to be able to share that with you all.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, you know, we all just need that little bit of confidence boost every once in a while to remind us that we're actually as good as we think we are. You know, I know what that feels like too. And I think you're a good writer. Your stories are good, and I think you're going to do great.
Thank you. Because I'm like, I'm so nervous. Like, are people going to like it? That's where I'm at the stage, you know, because it's new, and people are just now starting to leave reviews. So I'm like, is this good, or am I crazy here? You know, what are people going to think of my writing style and everything? So it's really it's scary. It really is scary putting yourself out there like this.
One little tiny piece of advice that I'll give you, and it's not going to be exactly the same, but you know, one bad comment is like 1,000 times worse than 1,000 good comments. So just be mindful that those will come, and try to let somebody else read them first and tell you not to read it, because it's better you don't even read it. Some people are just a-holes.
He said, don't read your reviews. He said, I'm going to read them for you.
Yeah, you know, I think that's wise, because it'll be a blow to your confidence, and people are just cruel and they want to say mean things. They think they're being some fancy critic, and you know, really they just sound stupid. But I would just say try to avoid reading those comments, and if you do happen to read one, try to just detach and just think, well, maybe they'd had a bad day when they wrote that. I mean, and just let it go, because
everyone has their own opinions. Because
it's hard to do. It's hard to let it go, but I think just let it go. I've had some really hurtful comments, and I sat there and just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And for like 2 or 3 days, you know, and then I realized, wait a second, I can't do that. You know, like I'm not going to let one comment ruin my stuff, you know. I'm just going to keep doing better. And that's how I've kind of approached everything. Is just tiny. All I need is one slight improvement each time I do a video, whether it's in my storytelling or the video editing or whatever. Just one tiny improvement. I feel good about myself, and I can deal with the haters if they come. But just try to ignore them and let somebody else read that for you. But I think you're going to do good. I think your book's going to do well, and I hope to have you back on the show. But it is getting late.
Yeah, it's late here. It's almost midnight here.
Yeah, well, it's not late here, but I've been sitting here a while, and you know it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
All right, guys. As always, stay kind, be vigilant, and always question the truth. I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good night, everyone.